Welcome to the Dire Wolf Show, where we believe that America is exceptional and that our constitutional rights should never be infringed. I am Dire Wolf. On our show, we bring you the truth and debunk fake news. If you love laughing at the insanity of the regressive left, sit back and relax. Boy, do I have a show for you.
Oh, hold on a second. For some reason, I guess people in chat have to be know, but for some reason, Streamlabs does not appear to be picking up your audio. Let me find out. I don't know why. Let's see here.
Silence by your computer. This is unfair.
There we go. I think it's picking it up now. Let's.
Fox's computer is unfairly silencing me.
Let's see here.
Silence by your computer.
There we go. All right, I can hear you now.
All right. So Dire Wolf here for our weekly news recap behind enemy lines on YouTube where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized. Alongside me is my co-host and producer Fox Trevize. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, not too bad. A little groggy, but not too bad.
Good. Ready for our show? I hope so, because we already started it.
Yeah. Are you ready or not? Here we are.
Here we go. Don't worry, I'm sure it won't hurt our level of professionalism and quality. It couldn't get any worse.
Yeah.
And for that, we have to blame our sponsors, Kaylet, Ori Main, Nathan Cameron, Tennis Freak, Slowpoke, Thundra Erican, who's female, the White Lion, and someone who starts with AU and I didn't finish typing.
Lupus.
Lupus. Thank you. Also, big thanks to Timberwolf. You guys can all support this channel. I'm not sure why you would, but if you are crazy enough, you can like, share, subscribe. That's how we grow. No one else will. So we got a little note here. What's going on with this?
What going on with what?
Going into more detailed on sharing us. The same spiel as
that's been
Carter
on there
does.
for like a year and a half, Dire.
Oh, never noticed it.
Yeah, no.
I'm
glad you're actually reading the script today.
Well, like other than liking, sharing, subscribing, posting us on Twitter and Gab and what all those other services, yeah, I think they know how. So we got a funny opening comment. Let's play this video.
I don't know if it's a
Play
comment.
the clip. I got some comments about it.
Oh. What's he looking for? Oh. Just smile and wave. Smile and wave. Can't find my mask.
Put the mask inside the notes.
I'm in trouble.
They're running out of mask.
Yeah, so that happened. We've all walked out the door and you pat your pockets, to grab the phone, and if you don't feel it, you kind of freak out. I haven't really done that with a mask before. That was maybe a little bit of paranoid freaking out over the mask. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is a little strange. Just you're around everybody, you're vaccinated. Everyone else around you is wearing the mask, presumably vaccinated. Just walk to the car. The car is 10 feet behind him. But it's not really a paranoia about the virus, right? It's a paranoia that he might let the theater slip. That he might let the mask slip, you might say. And then we could all see through him that, coronavirus kind of sucks. We've got the vaccine now, and so we don't necessarily need to treat it like it's the end of the world anymore.
So his press secretary kind of said the quiet part out loud, and when asked about why he was the only world leader at a recent Zoom meeting between government leaders about climate change, he was the only one wearing a mask. One of the reasons she gave, not the only reason, one of the reasons she gave was that Biden's trying to put out the message. And him doing that behavior, though it didn't make any actual law, logical sense practically. It was about the optics of it, and that he's trying to send the message, whether the mask is needed or not, that masks are important for everyone to wear. I want to point out, though, that states like Texas and Florida, who have not been locked down, and even before the vaccine was widespread, had dropping and very minimal infection rates and very few deaths. And it shows that that in comparison to similar cities of same population in other states where they are locked down, that the lockdowns aren't actually having a huge positive effect as far as curbing the infection rate. But has a much greater effect on the economy, where the states like Florida and Texas are doing well. The states that are locked down are still having suppressed economies. So I think the message he's sending is to keep doing something that is destructive.
Yeah. But it is the way that the Democrats have decided to go about grabbing control. They've spent an unprecedented amount of money, along with the rhinos in Congress, the last year. And really, the mask is what are you laughing about?
I think if Biden had a body double, he'd be more effective.
Yes.
Probably more coherent.
Yeah, that would be a problem. It'd be hard to kind of get the.
It'd be hard to find someone who could both, play the role of a body double and say, not talk about their role, like still stay covert, but also be as, not with it, to actually act like Biden.
Yeah. So the masks is kind of the way that it's a symbol of what the Democrats have chosen as their method of control during the Biden administration. It's allowed them to spend an unprecedented amount of money. They are scheduled to spend even more than that this year. And if you don't need the mask, well, that might mean that the virus is over, that the pandemic's over. And if the pandemic's over, well, they lose all that control, or they lose the reason, the excuse for having all that control.
Yep. Can't do that. They love that control hall. So let's go into our first story. We want to do a revisit of Biden's speech to the joint Assembly of Congress, so both houses of Congress. And when I say a speech to both houses, there was only like a few, 100 or so people there. It wasn't really both houses. It was a select number of pre-approved individuals from both houses that could be there.
Yeah. And really what the story, the reason why we bring this back up, because we did the whole show, watching and commentating on the speech live last week, and we really just wanted to start off the show with a correction today about that, because when we streamed it with you guys last week, and we commented on Biden's not State of the Union address, we told you guys that it was boring, and we even highlighted that Ted Cruz was falling asleep. And well, I guess we have to admit that we were wrong. We were fact checking ourselves, because according to polls from CBS and CNN, Biden's address to Congress was the most interesting, most truthful, most speechiest speech ever spoken. And I just wanted to be the first to tell you guys, Direwolf Media apologizes for having been wrong in telling you that it was a boring speech.
Yes, many apologies. We were mea culpa, very wrong.
Yeah.
So the polls in question that prove Biden is the most loved, adored, and handsomest president ever had come from CBS and CNN, who reportedly said there more than 80% of Americans approved of what he said.
Wow. That's a lot of Americans. That's like more than 75% of Americans. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's 80.
And after hearing numbers like that, we are just so sorry that we misled you. Clearly, we don't know what good, interesting, truthful, not boring at all speeches look like. That's definitely our bad. We'll try to do better next time.
Yeah, I thought us pointing out that he, said completely contradictory and incorrect statements that were provably false. I thought that's what those things were, but apparently we're the crazy ones. I thought when he was tripping over his speech and it was saying that only kids, parents with kids over age of 6 were getting benefits. I thought that was crazy, but apparently we're the crazy ones.
Well, I thought the most profound part of the speech was when he said that we don't want to build back better. We have to build back better. That was that was deep.
Someone might have said that was either a gaffe or him reading the teleprompter wrong, but no, that was actually good speech writing and a good delivery, apparently.
Yes, good speech speaking. It was the speechiest.
For those of you that actually watched the speech with us, then you all know that those polls were a bunch of bullshit. And you're not alone, because Biden got ratioed to hell on every single streaming platform that streamed the debate, the speech.
Yeah,
here's a video.
Yeah, here's just kind of a quick montage of all of the locations where it was streaming at all on the YouTube, and you can see the ratio of the upvotes to downvotes. And I mean, I don't know where CBS and CNN were getting their polls at, but the polls of the people on YouTube seem to show a different story as to whether or not 80% of people approved of the
people
of the
who
speech.
of the people who actually made a rating on these videos. We're ranging from like 60% to like 80% or more of people disliking it comparing to liking it. It's kind of hard to believe that they extrapolated that out to say that 80% of people who watched it, they said 80% of Americans, not those who watched it, approved of it. That is
I think
hard
it was
to believe.
probably like, if it was like 80% of people who liked Biden liked it, I could probably see that. But then the story would be kind of funny because it'd be like, well, Biden can't even get the people that like him. Not all of them like him still.
And let's say they polled people who watched only on cable television, right? That's a very small group of the people who are watching. Because, a lot of people who are watching it are streaming it on other platforms, not watching on cable television. You'd think it'd be wiser and probably way more accurate to not look at a very small number of people that you're trying to balance out as representative. Instead, look at the very real results of all these platforms who have already aggregated responses from viewers. That seems far more accurate, a much bigger data set.
Yeah, but Dyer, they have a narrative to push, and this doesn't fit their narrative. So, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Do you expect them to report the news without a bias? The hell's wrong with you?
Well, I think what we've learned from the last two elections is that their polls are really accurate, right? So we must be crazy. But you know what? Even if he was ratioed, according to The Atlantic, which had published an article in 2019, they published an article saying that getting ratioed from a Democrat perspective is a good thing.
Yes, all of the bad things are actually good things. Like crisis of the border, no, it's an opportunity. Pandemic got you down, it's an opportunity. Unprecedented levels of spending, it's an opportunity. It's everything that's bad is good again. That's the Democrat.
Yeah, the Atlantic's argument was, well, if everyone agrees with you, then you must be doing something wrong. I don't know if that's a really good argument, because maybe if the majority of people, like the vast majority of people, think what you're doing is wrong, maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe you don't see.
That's not very democratic. We can't just go with simple majority. Come on, what do you think we live in a democracy?
It's not. The argument wasn't. Sometimes being principled means going against the majority. That wasn't the argument. It was, if everyone agrees with you, then you're doing something wrong. So you should never do something everyone agrees with. That is the logic. That makes no sense. You know what? Majority of people don't like murder. I can go murder someone now because they disagree with it.
That's actually critical theory. That's what that comes from. Is the core of critical theory is just that this is what is traditionally correct, or this is what most people think is correct. Therefore, without thinking about it, it's wrong. That's what critical theory is.
It's a tyranny of the majority, right?
Yes.
Oh, the majority think that. It must be wrong.
So other outlets were also reporting, similar fun things. These little morsels of wisdom that you didn't know, like getting downvoted means that everybody loves you or that you're in the right. So Forbes, they said, quote, a majority of viewers who watched President Joe Biden's first address to a joint session of Congress on Wednesday came away feeling more optimistic about the country, according to separate polls released by CBS and CNN, especially expressing strong approval for the president's proposals on handling COVID-19 pandemic. Yes.
That's interesting. He was kind of just doing Trump's plan. So shouldn't they be actually approving of Trump's plan then?
I mean, I was more optimistic after it about COVID-19 because I was concerned that he was going to be canceling a lot of the stuff that Trump had set up. And Trump had set us up pretty good for handling COVID after he left office. And Biden's just been executing that plan, but I was kind of worried that Biden would stop. So hearing that Biden was not going to stop doing what Trump had already set up for him, that was encouraging to me. Because, he could have just said, well, we're not going to keep doing it because Trump set this up.
Yeah. Another thing to note about Biden's speech was his viewership was lower than the last 4 presidents, any one of their speeches to joint.
No, that's actually really explainable. Did you, Brian Stelter explain that, Dyer? Did you not watch Brian Stelter?
What did he say?
Oh, he said that it wasn't because nobody wanted to hear what Joe had to say, and it wasn't because Joe was boring. It was because, just TV viewership is down in general by, 50, 60% across the board. But yeah, they were trying to blame Biden's lower viewership on
it was lower than
TV
even the normal viewership, though.
Yes. While it may be true that generally TV is going down in viewership because people are watching stuff on the internet instead, the amount that Biden was under was way too much for just to be explained by that.
I mean, even the viewership of online platforms, it was far lower than a lot of Trump speeches that were broadcast on those same network, on the same network. So it's pretty bad viewership. One of those clips you're showing was showing like 4,000 views on it.
But Biden's speech was so bad that some people might even say it was one of the worst attacks on our democracy since the Civil War. I wouldn't say that, but some people would say that. Joe Biden wouldn't say that, but what he did say was that the January 6th riot was the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Dyer, did you have any? I know when I asked you before the show, you didn't have any strong feelings about whether or not January 6th was the worst event in our democracy since the Civil War. Did you think of any other things that might have been worse since we talked?
Well, let's start off with a metric. So, are we going to go by property damage or deaths? Because if we go by deaths, there was no deaths caused by the rioters, the bad guys in this story. There was only one death. It was from a police officer doing a negligent discharge and killing one of the quote unquote rioters.
Wait a second. Are you sure it was even a riot then? Well, no. It must have been a riot then, because people don't die at riots. People only get killed at peaceful protests. That's what I've learned last summer.
Right.
If you're a peacefully protesting, and your peaceful protest group has not killed somebody, usually a black kid, then you're probably not peacefully protesting correctly, because that's how BLM's been doing it all summer.
And if you're going by property damage, the amount of damage to the properties is far less, like the factor of 10 compared to what just one night of rioting from BLM isn't. So I mean, peaceful protests. So since this riot did less property damage than one peaceful protest, well, I have to assume that that's not a very big attack. So what things are worse than what happened on January 6th? Well, we could say, since it's an attack on our democracy, well, how about Pearl Harbor? That happened since the Civil War. What about 9/11? That was an attack against our democracy, and over 3,000 people died, and there was entire buildings destroyed and city blocks having horrible damage. I would say that's a bigger attack. How about just any one of the BLM riots on any given night when they actually burn buildings down and attacked people and killed people. How about those attacks on democracy? You could even use other examples from other courthouses and other Capitol buildings from different states. BLM has done far worse, and yet those were not considered worse than the worst attacks since the Civil War. Come on. That is the most insane statement I've heard. But then again, I guess 9/11, just some people did something, and that doesn't sound very bad, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that they're just some people who did something.
Thank you, Elon.
Yes.
So then we have Biden's. The whole point of his speech, I guess, was his continued calls for unity.
Yeah, his speech and his whole campaign really encapsulates the that idiom of shaking your hand while pissing on your leg, where he's like hey, I'm here for you, let's team up, let's do stuff together, and you're just sitting there pissing on your leg, just immediately next sentence saying we want to come together because those racist Republicans, it's really hard to come together with them, but we want to invite them to come together with us. That's basically.
Why would you do that?
Oh, Adder Lupus gave us $5. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Says good morning, Sunday morning. Wait.
Not Sunday morning. I've been lied to.
Yes. So tired I just reset my mind.
So he called for unity, which is pretty disingenuous. And at the same time as he's calling for unity and saying how he wants us to come together, his administration is actively attempting to destroy his political rivals. A couple examples, and this is just a couple out of many, is during this last week, the FBI raided Giuliani's house and took a bunch of his electronics because they're accusing him of having lobbied the U.S. government while not being an official of the not having official permission to do so. And the type of lobbying they say he did was advising the president, for whom he is the lawyer for at the time.
Well, no, and the specific thing that they were going after was that he was advising the president to fire Yovanovitch. Which, if you guys remember Yovanovitch, she was the one that was in the middle of the whole fake Ukraine Russia scandal thing. That was the first impeachment attempt. I wonder whatever happened to Vindman. Her and Vindman, what are they doing nowadays? They're in the middle of this whole thing that all got tore apart and has been shown to be completely fabricated information. And I would say that Giuliani advising Trump to fire Yovanovitch, I'd say that was spot on.
Yeah, it's a technicality in the law, but it's not really meant to be applied this way. When you're saying that there's restrictions on lobbying the government, they're more talking about different companies trying to lobby.
There's no it's completely fake. There is no world in which Trump having an advisor who Giuliani was. That's what a lawyer is. A lawyer is somebody who advises you, just specifically in law, but in general things as well. The president having an advisor who's advising him to do something, in no way is that any possibility of being lobbying. That is not lobbying at all. There is no confusion here. They're just making things up.
They're inappropriately applying an existing law that doesn't really apply here, and they has lots of people who advise him on different things, and if you try prosecuting all of them, that'd be insane. It doesn't make sense to say that the president can never receive advice from anyone except for his officially appointed advisors. That is an insane suggestion that should be thrown out of any court. But the FBI is taking it's not that they're taking it seriously. They're trying to shoehorn in any justification to persecute him because he was a loud critic and someone who's a thorn in the side of Biden and the administration. So they're punishing him, just like they went after Trump's allies with the Russian probe, just to persecute and put people in jail just for helping Trump, for daring to be a part of his administration. They're just trying to harm people who would dare oppose Biden.
Now there was some interesting things again in this call for unity, as Biden's doing. Unity through raiding his political adversaries. Giuliani mentioned that the FBI had a warrant to take all of Giuliani's any electronic device that was in his apartment And Giuliani pointed out to them, hey, you guys are grabbing all my other stuff. Like, here is a laptop. And they asked him what was on it. And he goes, oh, this is Hunter Biden's laptop. And they refused to take Hunter Biden's laptop because if they had, that would have all of a sudden got that wrapped up into an investigation, and they would be obligated to investigate it. So as a, unity. Unity through rating your political adversaries, and unity through, by any means necessary, do not investigate the president's son.
And this isn't something that's new to Biden. I have to remind you that he presided over the whole Lois Lerner debacle, where the IRS was being used to directly persecute and harass conservative groups who were trying to have nonprofit organizations.
Yeah. And funny enough, Hunter Biden's laptop actually does have evidence of illegal lobbying. We know from the emails that have been released that Chinese business groups were using Hunter as a go-between for then Vice President Joe Biden during the Obama administration. They also had correspondence that they were doing a similar thing with John Kerry's son. So there was actually evidence in Giuliani's apartment of somebody doing illegal lobbying. It just wasn't Giuliani. But the FBI didn't want that information because that might actually, accomplish something.
Yeah, that's an example of how the law that they're falsely or incorrectly applying here would have been correctly applied, is that was a foreign nation and a company trying to lobby the U.S. government through them. So, yeah, that would be a good way to apply that. But, of course, they're not going to look at that. We also have a funny video of Biden.
This is a very serious video. This is Joe Biden
prepping for the speech, right?
I don't know what.
I believe this was before the speech. He was prepping his microphone or something like that.
I don't know what he was prepping for, but I am gravely concerned. Let's listen.
What you saw on television. These white supremacists, Nazi sympathizers, carrying Nazi flags, using the.
What's funniest part of this?
That's what you gotta do is when you accidentally drop an F-bomb, is just immediately yell Jews.
Because no one will remember the F-bomb. They'll only remember the Jews.
Yeah.
I can't believe. Yeah, that's the way out. If you mess up your line, just yell out Jews real loud. That'll fix
Jews.
Jews. This is our president.
Yeah.
Does that not concern you?
I definitely don't want any any of those Nazi fags being flown by white supremacists.
Yes. Flying Nazi fags. That's scary.
Yes. Alrighty. We're dangerous territory. Alrighty.
Yes. We're on YouTube still?
Don't know why.
All right. Next story.
Our next story is so the rest of the world has come to realize that progressivism is just absolute cancer. I know Biden talked a lot about curing cancer during his speech on Wednesday, but I don't know if there's going to be a vaccine for progressivism. All right, so BLM has or kneeling in response to BLM or the movement has been banned at the Japanese Olympics. Which when is that going to be? Is that the? Do you know when they move that?
I forget the updated date.
It was supposed to be like last year, and it just got moved. I don't know when it got moved to.
It is coming up soon, though.
Okay. So let's see. You're taking a knee for Black Lives Matter will be banned at the Tokyo Olympics due to rules on racial propaganda. Yes, the Olympics is not about racial supremacy, but BLM is. The game's ruling body has agreed that Rule 50, which forbids any kind of demonstration or political or religious, religious, or racial propaganda in Olympic areas, should be maintained. The decision was made after talks were held between the International Olympics Committee and athletes, in addition to a survey from competitors from 185 countries. We have 185 countries now? Jesus.
Yes.
Come on,
And, you know,
what have you guys been doing? There's 185 countries? You guys
you
not
trying to
doing
get
your
us to-
job?
are you implying we should be destroying entire countries?
Which found the majority opposed to expressing political views.
That's not really our job in the military.
Dyer, you are supposed to protect America, and I think one of the best ways to protect America would be as if there was nothing that was a threat to it.
We're supposed to protect and uphold the Constitution, and follow orders of the leaders appointed over us towards that end, and nothing else. But so I get why other countries would think that kneeling for BLM and that whole message is idiocy, but also for beyond that, I think that it's in a lot of those countries' best interest to say that political statements and propaganda in general will not be allowed because, say, China wouldn't want someone from saying something about Hong Kong or, you know, their concentration camps with the Uyghur Muslims and organ harvesting. A lot of countries don't want to have anyone else being able to call out political messages during these things because it would only be a shit show.
Well, it's gonna happen anyways. You know it is. There'll be people wearing stuff or saying stuff. It's gonna happen anyways.
Oh, they'll get fined. They'll fix the problem. Not really.
Yeah.
So another example of the international community rejecting progressivism is China bans feminism and promotes masculinity in a Chad move like no other. In January, China's education minister published plans to cultivate masculinity in boys from kindergarten through high school. The initiative involves hiring and training more gym teachers, testing students more comprehensively in physical education, making health education compulsory, and supporting research into issues like the influence of phenomenon and phenomena of the internet celebrities on adolescent values. So basically, what are these influencers on the internet? How are they influencing our kids and affecting their masculinity? 4chan and also Tumblr. So the plan follows a warning from one of China's top political advisors that the nation is experiencing a national masculinity crisis, saying Chinese boys have been spoiled by housewives and female teachers. The advisor, Si Sefu, said to the policy in a policy proposal in May, boys would soon become delicate, timid, and effeminate unless actions taken, he said. Now, I'm not sure I agree with all that stuff he just said about the cause, but they're identifying a problem that you might see in America of, we call them soy boys, of effeminate, non-masculine men, which not only exist, but it's like being encouraged and being masculine is being demonized. So they're trying to produce less masculinity in our society, and they're identifying as a problem, and I think I agree.
Yeah, much more likely to be caused by eating plastic and corn syrup. But
yes.
I digress.
Still a problem.
Yes. Let's see here. So then we have France, who is becoming more and more woke, red-pilled, I would say, the last few years. Macron has found his balls, apparently. The French military says that what is this? What is that word, Dyer?
Progressivism. Sorry.
That is like 8 letters away from progressivism. Okay. The French military says progressivism is a national security issue. Dyer wrote provinciism. Let's see here. About 1,000 servicemen and women, including some 20 retired generals, put their name in the letter that says that progressivism is a threat to national security, which it absolutely is. In the letter, they blamed fanatic partisans for creating division between communities and said Islamicists were taking over whole parts of the nation's territory. My God, are you talking about no-go zones? The signatories go on to blame a, quote, certain anti-racism for splitting up communities and seeking to create, quote, racial wars by attacking statutes and other aspects of French history. Man, where is our generals at with the similar letter for America? Oh, that's right. They're on the boards of all the people that make missiles and airplanes and all that stuff, and they're just raking in the dough, or they're getting political appointments.
All of the active duty generals who might agree with this statement as far as it applies to the United States were fired and replaced by Biden already. And of those who are retired and agree with what these French generals are saying and don't want that for our country, I guess too many of them are spineless and not willing to rock their worlds by being put out there with that message. But
Lockheed pays a lot of money to have people on the board.
Yeah, but they're right in that that right now these progressives are saying, hey, maybe we should if you say that someone going to your community and because of their religious beliefs are hurting people, raping children, killing people, and enforcing religious law upon that community, if you say that's bad, it's not because it's objectively bad and it's objectively against the national values that your country has. It's because you're a racist and you're not allowed to criticize someone who's a defenseless minority. Because as a majority group or the group that's in power, you are instantly wrong and nothing you value matters.
Basically, if you think that Islam, brown people shouldn't be allowed to honor kill their kids for looking at TikTok videos.
And your kids.
Or, let black kids stab each other to death. If you think that they shouldn't be allowed to do that, you're probably a bigot. Where's that going to be at on the political compass test question? Is that going to be like, do you strongly agree with or strongly disagree with the right of black children to stab each other with knives? Is that going to be on the political compass test question pretty soon? It should be.
It should be very far left authoritarian, though.
Yes.
All right. So the next story we have about the international community recognizing progressivism as a cancer is Hungary bans gender studies from universities. The Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, banned gender studies programs at universities, as I previously said, and he said the government's standpoint is that people are born either male or female based, and we do not consider acceptable for us to talk about societal constructed genders rather than biological sex, said a spokesman for the Prime Minister. The Deputy Prime Minister, Zolaf Zeman, said gender studies has no business in universities because it is an ideology, not a science. They go on to say that ideology of gender studies is in opposition and a danger to society at large, and I agree.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of explaining it.
Yeah, so I guess what this all boils down to is this is a few examples of many where other nations who don't have as much, they don't have very much to lose left, right? They're seeing this ideology as being terrible and destructive. So why can't we see it? Why are we still humoring it?
Because they have control of everything and they spend all of the money to get the politicians elected. So there's just no, I don't know. And Ted Cruz can't be bothered because he's got books to write and podcasts to do with Daily Wire.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty good reason. I don't want to trouble him. He's got all that stuff to do.
Yeah. Republicans had their chance to get a handle on this in 2016. They had everything they needed. And they never did. They right now, some of the spending bills going through have money allocated towards programs like these buried in the budgets, and you could have the Republicans could be up there using the filibuster, using the other kind of filibuster that we talked about a few weeks ago, where they can just add amendments that are absurdly long and take forever to read. They could be doing stuff to jam us up. And say it's because of what these universities are doing to the kids and doing to the country and doing like societal fabric. and they've just got no motivation to do it. And I don't know that they will before it's too late.
Yeah, I have a feeling that a big part of the problem, other than it obviously being the right's fault for not taking action, but the result of them not taking action is that there is a large part of the populace that really are ignorant of how dangerous this is, and it's because the right haven't done their job. You agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say to an extent. I think it's I would agree with that. So the Republican politicians have utterly failed, but really right wing commentary in the culture war, I think that has kind of been a failure as well. The kind of and the kind of like chant motto that we had for like the last decade was, you gotta get in the culture war. Culture's down, or politics is downstream of culture. Implying that, well, the politics is decided on whatever the culture is. So if conservatives can get a handle on the culture, then they'll be able to get a handle on the politics. And we've had an unprecedented amount of right wing commentary and debate channels and stuff like that pop up over the last 10 years. And it's been a failure. It's not moved the needle at all. I think we have to start focusing on politicians now. Politics might be downstream of culture, but if we can't win the culture war, then we need to start doing what we can with politicians. We need to start getting the because during that time, right? So during the growth of the internet and the explosion of YouTube and the ability for everybody to have their own conservative radio channel, it wasn't just AM anymore. It was everybody on YouTube. We allowed the Republican Party to keep all of the the establishment types. We allowed them to maintain all their power, and they did absolutely nothing with it for us for the last 10 years. So I think that, not that the culture war is not important, but I just don't see us winning that. We've not done anything in the last 10 years that seems to imply that we're winning that. And I think it's time to start focusing on politicians that'll actually get some stuff done. I think that's going to have to be the change in strategy for the next 10 years. Otherwise, it's just over.
Or maybe just do both. I think that you can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time.
We certainly can do both. It's a division of labor, right? But you've got people like Ted Cruz, and you got a lot of other ones too. Ted Cruz is just the worst example of it, where he would much rather be a commentator, and he literally has a show where he is paid by the Daily Wire to be on a show that they have all the time, a commentary show. And he so desperately wants to be a commentator, and he does not want to be a senator. You've got Matt Gaetz, to an extent, is like that. Matt Gaetz is trying to retire out of Congress, and he wants to become a commentator on, I think it was OAN. You've got a lot of other Republicans that really, really enjoy getting that screen time, and they love talking a big game. But when it comes to doing something, they don't got any teeth with it. Ron Paul's like that a lot too. Ron Paul, he'll sit there and talk a big game about budget and all that stuff, and he'll vote no on funding the cancer fund for first responders from 9/11. He'll vote no on that, make a big stink about spending money, all that stuff. And then he every time a spending bill comes up, he goes ahead and puts his check mark on there. The last 2 or 3 spending bills, Ron Paul, supposed to be the spend no money libertarian guy, has been writing check marks on all these giant spending bills, and he's not doing anything either. But he will go out on TV and do YouTube videos and just he'll talk a big game. Ted Cruz talks a big game. Ted Cruz talks a big game about he's never wearing a mask again. Then last week he's wearing a mask because he wanted to go see Biden speak. No, so we got to find better politicians. I don't know what the solution to that is. I think it's really a failing of right wing commentary the last 10 years because they endorsed a lot of the do nothing Republicans that have gotten they're stuck in those positions, and I think that the strategy right-wing commentary needs to go for the next 10 years is to be a lot more vicious. I need big names. Like, I need Daily Wire not to be hiring Ted Cruz on as a permanent show position, as a permanent showrunner. I need them to be asking him, hey, why did you said you weren't going to wear masks anymore? Why did you cuck out on wearing a mask last Wednesday? You said, this, and this. Why aren't you out on the floor right now reading 2,000-page amendments to filibuster that? Why aren't you doing that? I need Crowder to do the same thing with them. I need Breitbart. Breitbart's actually pretty good at yelling, calling them out. I need Hannity and Tucker to start calling them out more. Tucker's pretty good too. Hannity's the worst at just being very gentle with these guys. But we really, really gotta stop letting the big names in conservative commentary just give easy passes to the establishment Republicans just because, I get Ted Cruz on my show, my ratings are going to go up. I get whoever on my show, my ratings are going to go up. No. It's got to be, if we want it to be the culture war, you got to start calling people out for that. And I don't have control of Daily Wire. I don't got control of Crowder. I don't got control of Hannity. But I think that they need to start being called out a little bit more for the role they've had in supporting the establishment Republicans to continue doing nothing for the last 5 years.
Yeah. So the answer is to do both things: fight the culture war, fight in politics viciously. It's that we can't do that job. We can fight the culture war. We need politicians who will actually go to war for us. And that currently a lot of the Republicans are not those kinds of politicians. So, happy. That is the end of that story. Let's move on to the next one.
Yay. Okay, so next story is congressional appointments. You know it. Yay. You love it. It's the census. It was great. So we had the census last year.
So exciting.
So much excitement. I'm like out of my seats right now. So census numbers from last year, they are in, and it turns out that people hate living in leftist shitholes. Who would have guessed? Nobody would have guessed that. We got some the key changes up on the screen here. So the dark green, which is Texas, they got 2 extra seats after. So yeah, I'm sure you guys know, but just to kind of recap the census, we take it every 10 years. And then based off the population that the census takes in each state, that then reapportions the House representatives. So Texas had a population boom the last 10 years, so they got 2 extra House representatives. Now, those representatives have to come from somewhere, and they come from states that didn't have population booms, like California and New York and Michigan. Oh man, I wonder what happened there. I wonder why people are leaving those states. And this also will play into electoral math. So next presidential election, the electoral college math will be different because Texas will have 2 more votes. New York and California have 1 less vote. And, you get into some close races, that's going to start making a pretty big difference. The most notable changes, I think, was probably definitely Texas gaining 2 more seats. That's good.
Yep.
And the New York and California both lost 1 House seat, which is that's pretty big deal. And I'd say that's a pretty good split for those states to lose a representative and for Texas to be the one to pick them back up. Because, Texas, they got their areas, but by and large, you can probably guess that they're going to be pretty good at picking conservative representatives. And what this might allow Texas to do when they go back through and redistrict their congressional districts is they might be able to gerrymander places like Houston and what's the other one? What's the other liberal place down there? Really?
In
Texas.
Where again?
What are the liberal cities?
So Dallas, Houston.
Yeah. So
And,
what they could probably do is just kind of isolate those into like their own congressional district, and like, now there are 2 new seats. They can kind of offset those areas, and then they're not as big of a deal in Congress anymore. So with New York losing a seat, it was they were kind of funny because they lost the seat because of 89 people difference. If they had 89 extra people in the entire state of New York, they would have kept their seat. Now, 89 people sounds like, it sounds like a lot of people, if you're like in your day-to-day life, but for, purposes of like a whole state, that's not very many people. And so we went through a couple of different ways where maybe they could have found an extra 89 people, just to give you guys some perspective. So if New York had banned abortions for only 7.5 hours during the year of 2020,
if they could bear to not kill children for 7.5 hours,
they would have an extra 89 people in the state. If they wanted to keep abortions going and just stopped aborting black babies for
I know it's a novel idea. Just the idea for a short period, not killing black people. Could they do that?
Yes. If they had been able to refrain from executing black babies for 25 hours at any point, any 25 hours.
Just one day, basically.
Just a day and change. They would have an extra 89 black people. If
But
Cuomo,
obviously, they value killing black people so much that they're willing to give up a house seat.
Yeah, those numbers are based off of the abortion statistics, which are easily looked up. So yeah, also based off of the numbers of nursing home deaths, if Cuomo had just refrained from sending sick people into nursing homes for an extra 30 days, if he had waited 30 more days, just 1 month before he started putting sick people into nursing homes, they would have an extra 89 old people. I looked up the crime statistics for New York City, and none of them had like interesting numbers like this, but the numbers for 2020 aren't out yet. And I'm imagining that with the advent of their cashless bail system and the riots over the last year, I'm guessing that they probably lost around 89 people, or probably a lot more, as a direct result of some of those policies. But I didn't have the statistics to come up with a fun numeric measurement of that. But yeah, that's kind of funny. The policies have consequences. Murdering babies has consequences.
Supporting BLM has resulted in cities in both California, New York, and Oregon gaining an additional 3,000 deaths. I'm sure New York's proportion of those deaths is more than 85,
Yeah,
89. So maybe if they just didn't support violent terrorists in their streets
yeah.
for a while.
You also notice that Florida gained a seat, which that's to be expected as people are fleeing to Florida. Florida seems to be a destination, as is Texas. But you would think with conservative states like Texas and Florida, as we all know, as Don Lemon tells us every night, those kinds of states, they've got their police out in force hunting black people. That's what we're told. It's funny. I mean, maybe I guess they're hunting, but not hunting them enough to have dropped the population significantly. Not the way New York has.
Maybe New York is hunting them harder. So also you notice that Oregon is gaining a seat, right? And that means so these states that are Democrat run that are getting a seat doesn't necessarily mean they're getting another Democrat House member either. So there is a Republican running for that open seat in Oregon, and they haven't gerrymandered them yet, but it's very possible, since the way they are currently set up, it's balancing out all the conservative voters to be outweighed by the Democrat voters, that with the new balancing, they might have a conservative district.
Yeah, so and it's likely. So like places like Oregon, like they're going to mostly be concentrated in Portland, as where their liberal areas are. So if they can get an extra seat, it's probably going to just make it easier to gerrymander the city into a single liberal vote, and then give a conservative area the ability to have more seats, thus offsetting that liberal area. So even though Oregon's quote unquote a liberal state, this might allow for the larger conservative areas who don't have the population density, but they do have the land mass density, allow them to offset the cities a little bit more in terms of their House representation. So that'd be cool if that would happen. I guess it'll remain to be seen, but it'll just depend on how they get them gerrymandered.
It's difficult because you can't exactly split a city they only have so many high populated cities that are Democrat, right? So you can't really split a city into two different districts without it being completely crazy and political, right? Like, do you want to have a single city split down the center voting for two different candidates?
Yeah, they do that all the time. Like New York City, I think, has like 4 or 5 different House representatives that are throughout the city.
That is insane.
Yeah,
well, but New York also has way more districts than Oregon, so it's kind of harder when you have so few already, right?
Yeah,
they only have 6.
So I don't know. Well, and we are way unbalanced on the number of people being represented by each House rep. The Constitution, the original interpretation of the Constitution prescribed a much lower number of people being represented by a particular representative, and so really we should be having like a doubling or even tripling of the House size, which a lot of people they don't like that idea because they say that nothing would get done, to which I say yes.
That's the idea.
Like, tell me more. I'm listening. You have my attention.
I can't get any more hard.
Yes. Yes, stop. I can only get so erect.
There's
Okay.
something wrong with me.
Yes.
Play it again. No, that was it. Okay.
Yep.
Next story. Antifa versus a frying pan. Now, I'm going to play, more accurately, Fox is going to play a video from Crowder. Now, he is going to make the claim that this video involves
Why
a
don't
person...
we just watch it? You always do this. We're going to watch it. We always are about to watch...
Hey, listen. Just look at what's in the guy's hand, all right? And tell me at the end what you think it is.
We're always about to watch a funny video, and then you'll go through and explain it before we watch it. Just let us watch it.
I want to know what you're looking for.
We can watch it again. It's only a 15-second clip.
Too long.
Was that a frying pan?
It's a frying pan!
Play it again.
I thought he hit the...
I thought he hit the same guy twice.
No, he hit two guys.
People. Yeah.
Still funny.
All right.
Play it again.
So it's funny. It's not accurate. So the story that Crowder was this week talking about was actually from June 2019, and the frying pan he's referring to is actually like a bicycle helmet or a metal helmet.
Yeah,
right?
it just looks like a black frying pan because you're seeing the inside of the helmet.
Yeah, it's a red and white helmet with a black inside, something you wear for like motorcycling, right?
Or riding.
Or riding. The event took place it was a Pride event in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, not in the United States.
Were these some of those Nazi fags?
Yes, he has a Nazi fag in his mouth right now. So the frying pan sound effect was actually added for comedic effect, and it was good. It's funny. But this guy is Christopher Van Weyden, 27, of some place I'm not familiar with, and he was charged with 2 counts of assault with a weapon because of the helmet. Let's play the full video with the accurate sound so you know what actually happened.
But that's not as funny.
It's still funny in my opinion. You just don't get the comical donk sound.
We're good and back on the head. Next one out here, Mike. violence. Look at the violence. Look at the violence.
I can't hear anything.
Yeah, you don't know anything, but actually the Bible here reflecting losing.
This is in Canada?
Yep.
What's wrong with that?
Celebrating here today was murdered Jesus Christ. You realize that? You murdered Jesus Christ by promoting.
You really gotta do a better job of when you got a long video clip of giving me the timestamps on the wire. Thank you.
I wanted this context, you know. It's good.
Oh man.
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Leave.
So let's one more time. And dunk.
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough.
I guess I see what Joe Biden was warning about.
Yes, so this guy didn't just bash some Antifa over the head with his helmet. He was attacked multiple times by multiple people for a while. That led to that. So I thought that context was important. He's not just
Yeah, but he's also the kind of
and they were also
he's also the kind of douchebag that would like show up to a park like with a flak jacket on, like looking to get into it with a bunch of fat pink scarf people.
yes,
he's
this
not
is
not innocent in this.
Fair enough. But yeah, that's what really happened. Now that brings us on to the topic of just generally Antifa in general, right? And what they've done to our police force. So police have been resigning en masse due to these BLM cities stabbing them in the back, not supporting them, not funding them, actively defunding them, putting them in jail for doing what they're being ordered to do,
Stopping them
not
from
allowing them
stabbing
to
each
protect
other in the
communities.
back.
Yeah, calling them a racist murderer for stopping one black girl from stabbing another black girl to death. Because of that, cities like Chicago, and Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Atlanta, and many more, Portland, have had massive resignations over the last year. And in the period of just a couple months, have as many resignations as the entire previous year.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So, first example, Seattle.
Seattle. So the Seattle Police Department said that they had more than 200 officers that walked off the job in the last year, which I don't know how many officers they have, but that sounds like not nearly enough.
No, I think Seattle had somewhere around 700 or something like that before. It's getting they're getting so stretched that they can't really respond to many calls. Oakland, Oklahoma. I can't really. Is that how you pronounce that word? I'm not sure.
It's
small.
Oklahoma. Yeah, it's Cowlin, Oklahoma.
Okay, so Cowlin, Oklahoma. In that city, they have just one police officer per a shift. Its acting police chief says that the Bureau Council seems to it wanted this department to be gone. A majority of officers left the force in Kingston, Indiana, and including the chief, because there was no support from the department, no town council backbone for us, says one former officer. So that's two more cities. A survey of news stories in 2020 indicated that across America's 50 largest cities, at least 23 has seen chiefs or line officers resign, retire, or take disability this year. Nearly 3,700 beat cops have left, a large portion from the New York Police Department, down 7% of its officers. But this big drop in Chicago, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Atlanta, and elsewhere as well. And that was 2020. The resignations since January 2021 have overshadowed last year already in many of these cities. It's getting to dire straits for all these police departments where they just simply can't function. And it's not those 23 out of the 50 most populated are Democrat cities. They're not cities in Texas or Florida. So the Antifa is actually getting what they want. They want to remove the police, and the police are removing themselves because the local governments are not supporting them.
I would really like to see a bill come through Congress that is, and they could so easily trick the left, make it like a income disparity in policing initiative or whatever the hell the acronym needs to say to make it sound clever or whatever, but make it illegal for a state to allow neighboring jurisdictions to have wildly disproportionate police coverage. So if the big city centers in like Chicago, if they're going to have their police defunded and not allow them to do anything, but they're going to keep all of that police presence in the rich neighborhoods, the federal level needs to come in and say that's illegal. Same thing in LA and New York, because that's what's happening is really this defund the police, this the mass retirements, the places where those resources are coming from and being drained out of are going to be your lower income inner city areas. They're going to make sure that until the very last drop, they'll divert every bit of resources to making sure that they can protect the millionaires and the billionaires and the politicians, the mayors, the city councilmen. They'll do all that. And I think that there needs to be a federal law that comes in and clarifies that, nope, equal justice under the law. You don't get to have a city cannot specify that rich areas get more police coverage. It cannot be. And maybe they can make a commission. And the Democrats should love this, right? Like, so this would be like a big way to trick the Democrats, because you could put, racial justice stuff in there. You could tell we're going to make another commission, and that commission will review different cities and see if they're, equity in policing and all that stuff. But I don't know what the other solution is, because we have these policies and ideologies being pushed by wealthy liberals who are in their gated communities, and they don't have to feel the effects of what they're advocating for. And meanwhile, you got the people on the street in the Democrat Coliseum fighting for their lives, and the Democrats encouraging them to kill each other and pulling the police coverage back from them. And I think it's about time that we had something at the federal level step in to do something about that.
It obviously is horribly morally wrong that they will not have equal protection. They say there's a different level of policing for them and than it is for, say, Nancy Pelosi, who will always have the best policing, best protection, right? But in the end, the majority of the population of those states either voted for or did not vote for those political leaders that then enacted those laws. Maybe they're getting exactly what they deserve, and maybe that change can only happen when the people of those states actually vote for someone who wants to provide the services they want, right? It's definitely not our lack of a vote that allowed Nancy Pelosi to be in office. It's not our lack of a vote that allowed Maxine Waters to have power, or any of these other Democrat despots to have power. So they're getting what they asked for, or they refuse to stand up for.
Well, I don't know. I my city's not like that. I don't got to worry about that. So if that's what poor people in the big cities want to do, they want to vote for people that'll let them kill each other. I don't know. That's not the city I live in.
You know what you can do? All you can do is give the wisdom that you're already giving.
Yep.
And if they don't listen, that's their city. That's their state. That's not
their,
yours.
It's their
you can't
lives.
make
It's
them.
their kids.
Yeah, their businesses that are getting burned down. They are asking for it. We have these businesses getting burned down that are saying Black Lives Matter, flying these banners, right? They definitely, probably, because according to the votes, like 80% of people are voting in some of these cities for Democrats. I mean, that's what they asked for. They're getting it. It's not our fault. We're telling them what they need to do, and they're not listening.
Yeah. It's a democracy. You deserve to get what you voted for, and you deserve to get it good and hard.
You know what? They just need to suffer enough until they start voting.
I don't know. We talked about this last time. The amount of suffering the last couple of years, and the way the cities have been for the last couple of decades, really. I don't know if suffering is going to get the message through or not.
Well, eventually they'll either suffer enough to do something or they'll die.
Yeah, well, that's what's happening in New York. I mean, they're literally letting them kill each other to the point where they lost a congressional seat. So
yeah, I mean, and then if they all die, then we get all the congressional seats. So I mean, it's really they're hurting themselves.
Yeah, well, win some, you lose some. Alrighty, ready for our next story?
Yeah, should we transition off of YouTube?
No,
Does it really matter at this point?
No, we're just this last one. We're gonna skip the last part because I'm tired.
All right, fair enough.
Alrighty, so Biden's border wall shell game.
Be gone from me, you soy
Whoa.
boy beta cock. The transaction is complete.
A ton of these retired cops have moved out to where I live in the cornfields. My neighborhood gained 5 police officers last year that moved here in the last 8 months. Neighborhood Watch is now fully armed, bigger than some police departments.
Nice.
Thank you very much, Triumvirate, for the $10. And,
Much appreciated.
You know, is your neighborhood fully armed because more than some police departments just because of you, or is it a couple other people in there too?
So Biden announced Thursday that he had informed Congress he was rescinding the national emergency declaration on the U.S.-Mexico border. That was put in place by President Trump in February of 2019, and it directed billions of dollars for the construction of the border wall. And he was forced to do this because Democrats in Congress refused to pass funding for border security. You may remember that there was, on 2 separate years, government lockdowns for long periods where you couldn't give the Democrats anything, even making DACA permanent. They wouldn't accept that in return for putting any money towards the border wall. And that's because they didn't want to give Trump the win. So Trump needed funding from somewhere, and he recognized it as a crisis far before Biden was willing to accept it, back when Biden was calling it a xenophobic ploy. So he took money that was set aside for emergencies in the DoD budget and in a federal budget, $600 million from the Treasury and $6.1 billion from the Defense Department and Homeland Security. So the wall was being built during a crisis for the purpose of Homeland Security. That's what this money was meant for, and that's what it was then used for. Biden is now ended that emergency declaration and returning what money is left from that pot back to those coffers. In the article, which is not here in the notes, they said that they were returning it for the military to use, to return it to our troops. But it's actually not going to be doing that. It's money set aside for emergencies, and it's not going to go towards a lot of the things that they implied it would be used for. Our troops aren't going to receive it for other missions. It's there for emergency construction.
So Biden first announced that he was going to halt the emergency declaration on the first day of his presidency, though I think he announced that he was going to do that quite a bit earlier, but it was just official on his first day as president. The president has signed several executive orders aimed at unwinding Trump's hardline immigration policies. I don't know if they're hardline. They were just an immigration policy. I understand that having an immigration policy seems hardline when we had no immigration policy the previous years. This included establishing task force to reunify children that were separated.
That's an opinion from the article.
Yeah, you can't just dump that stuff in here without like rewriting it.
All right.
Like,
so that brings up one of the lies that Biden brought up. So this article is echoing something he said. Was he blamed Trump's hardline policy of family separations for being the reason why kids are being separated from their parents at the border, when really that policy came from the Bush and then reinforced during the Biden and Obama administration. So it was something that was in place during Biden that they did not change, that could continue into the Trump administration and then was ended by Trump. So there's a little bit of historical revisionism there, where they're trying to say this was Trump's policy, something he actually ended. But just disregard that paragraph, please. That was a direct quote from that article. But the big point was Biden is still building the wall. That was a previous story from the week before last, where he actually continued building the wall, and is actually adding more, at least it's saying, more sensors and such to the wall. The story implies that that Biden is stopping the building of the wall, but really he's just stopped using that pot of money, and that's the shell game. The article is lying, or at least implying that the wall is no longer being built, but it is being built, just with different money.
Adder Lupus sent us a diamond, and he says it's a fully semi-automatic lemon with 100 lemon magazines. Thank you very much. We will shoot them wisely.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So, another question. What happened there?
What do you mean?
I think I closed the notes. No, there it is. So I clicked on a link by accident. So, Biden... No, in the sources. So, is Biden using appropriation funds, or just not using the appropriated funds, legal? So, if there is funds appropriated by Congress to use for a purpose like building the wall, would it even be legal for him not to? And I think it's not, because it's already appropriated. He's supposed to follow what the Congress has said is what the budget will be used for. However, if you say that it is legal for him to not spend that money, that's exactly what they attacked Trump for withholding money that was aid to Ukraine. So if it's wrong for Biden to not use appropriated funds, not the stuff that came from the emergency declaration, but funds from Congress, which is something that's also being discussed, then it would be it's just as wrong for as when they said it was wrong for Trump to not send money to Ukraine.
Yeah, but they want it to happen this time, so it's legal now. That's how the system works now.
Yeah, because there is still money appropriated in the last budget. I believe it was a $1 billion towards building the wall.
Well, so this gets back to the previous conversation about the do nothing Republicans. We had an opportunity several times the last 20 years for the Republicans to have built the border wall. It took until Trump to finally get that thing over the edge, and even Trump didn't push on it nearly as hard as we all thought that he might be pushing on it. Though he did make some significant progress, so we'll give him that. And on the flip side, the Democrats have been promising DACA and all this stuff, the amnesty. They've been promising that for 20, 30 years, and they also haven't done it because both sides know if they were to actually do anything with it, it wouldn't be a wedge issue for the next election, and you wouldn't be able to keep electing all the do-nothings because they wouldn't have anything to promise you. They'd have to come up with some new thing to promise you, and they're not that creative, so they want to stick with immigration. So Biden, I'm sure, will keep this current crisis going just enough to still be there in a couple of years so the Democrats can all say, well, we really need to have amnesty for all these people. What are we going to do with them? And the Republicans can all say, well, we really need the border wall, all that stuff. So it's just going to be nothing happening. And in the meantime, we will continue to have floods of illegal migrants who are lowering wages for especially low income people, and further contributing to rampant inflation and strain on resources and legal systems and all that stuff. Great. Can't wait.
Fun times. All right. So that's it for today's show, right?
Yeah. That's all the
All
gas
right.
I got in
So-
me right now.
Fair enough. So we'll see you guys on the next show. Do you want to do a Wednesday show? Games? Something?
We can. I'm also going to be gone next weekend too, so maybe Sunday.
Okay.
next
We'll do a
weekend.
Wednesday show, and probably not. So no Sunday either.
I don't know. Maybe we'll do like another show like on Thursday, but I definitely
cool.
can't do Saturday.
Fair enough. All right. We'll see you guys later this week. It's been fun. Dire Wolf out.
All right, Shvi signing off. Thanks, guys.